thank you very much. First of all, I'm going to do my speech in English. I hope that's okay. But we'll take questions in Italian and they'll be translated for me. So let me bring up my presentation. I thought it was loaded here. So I want to make some brief remarks on the business models of the business of science and to pick up on the themes that were raised this morning on the interaction between science and business. And I think there's a new phenomenon occurring, and we saw it in this morning's presentation and in the most recent presentation, that there's a convergence between the worlds of science and the worlds of business. And I think this creates certain challenges, and I'll talk about those challenges and the need to find new ways to organize businesses in order to take advantage of the opportunities, the commercial opportunities created by science. And I'll spend a little bit of time talking about what we've learned from the experience in the biotechnology industry over the last 30 years, which has been the area of my research. Historically, science and business operated in very separate worlds. Universities were the province of science, and businesses focused on commercialization. I think that was true in the US. I think that was largely true in Europe. And to some extent also true in Asia. Science was really the world of, the universities were the world of science. Science was the responsibility of government funding and government research laboratories. It was a world focused on first principles, theories. It was a world dominated obviously by academics, where peer review is what mattered. Where you focused on getting government grants to fund your research, and the whole goal was to publish. On the other side of the wall was the world of commercial R&D, which was the world of for-profit businesses, corporate R&D labs or entrepreneurial firms. And these were this is a world where the attention is on commercially feasible products. It's not about theory or methods. It's about reducing things to practice. It's not a world of the academic, but a world where the stars are the manager or the industrial scientist. It's not a world that worries about government grants, but it's a world of capital budgeting and capital markets. And it's a world where publishing is not what matters, but in fact secrecy is what matters. And I think that division of labor was one that we saw for most of the 20th century. There were exceptions. In the US, for instance, Bell Labs was a for-profit enterprise, or was a research lab in a for-profit enterprise that did basic science. But that was the exception. The norm was really that these worlds were separate. I think what we're starting to see, and we've seen it a lot in the US over the last 30 years, and we're seeing it in Europe now, is this convergence, this blurry boundary between the world of science and the world of business. And we have businesses, for-profit businesses, founded to develop and exploit new scientific findings. And I think the biotechnology world epitomizes this convergence. And we have the emergence of what I call science-based businesses. And the companies that Dr. Ferrari spoke about this morning and the last presenter spoke about, these are examples of science-based businesses. A science-based business is one where we see private enterprise involved directly in scientific research. If you go back to the history of a company like Genentech, their first research project was a very basic research project to find out whether you could produce protein, a human protein in a bacteria cell. That was a fundamental question in biology at that time. No private enterprise had ever done something like that. an extremely short time lag between scientific breakthrough and the founding of the firm. Firm scientists kind of living in both worlds. They may go into becoming entrepreneurs but retaining their academic affiliation or staying quite active in their research. And at the same time, we see universities becoming active in what were historically commercial activities that universities never got involved with. So in the U.S. today, almost every major research university has a very active technology transfer office. They patent. They're aggressive in pursuing their intellectual property. And in recent years, some universities have even moved beyond basic research and are doing commercial development of drugs. This convergence between science and business raises, in my mind, a very interesting and important question. Because it's in some way it's a novel experiment. We've never really done this before as a society, to bring together putting science in the hands of private businesses. And it raises the question, can science really be a business? Because they've historically operated so differently. And that's the question that I've tried to answer in my research over the last several years by looking at the experience of the biotechnology industry. And I think it's interesting to talk about biotech in Europe because the U.S. biotechnology industry is widely viewed as a model for how to link science and business. And so it's useful to ask the first question, how is the model doing? So the first thing I did is to look at the performance of every publicly held biotechnology company over the last 25 years. Now remember, if you're looking only at publicly traded companies, you're getting a biased sample. You're only getting to see the most profitable companies because all the private companies we know lose money. So the picture I'm going to show you is, as we'd say in English, a rosy picture. It's the most attractive picture. So the pink line is revenue, and that line does what you'd hope it would do in a growing business. Product revenues go up, and they've been going up quite rapidly. The measure of profitability I used was operating income before depreciation, which is essentially cash flow. And that's a much harder line to see because it actually, if you look carefully, it hugs the x-axis, which if you're talking about profitability, that's the wrong axis to be hugging. You don't want to be at zero. And then it dips below zero in 2001 and kicks up at the